The quantum arrays on Europa Station hadn't stopped screaming for the past 30 minutes. Dr. Elena Santos stared at the readings with a mix of fascination and horror as they depicted something that should have been impossible. A massive object had just emerged from what appeared to be a self-contained fold in space-time, less than 50,000 kilometers from Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Director Chen wants everyone in the command center 5 minutes ago, her assistant Marcus called from the doorway, already turning to sprint down the corridor. Elena grabbed her tablet and ran, her mind racing through possibilities. The quantum detection system she'd helped design was meant to track shipping vessels using the new Q-drive technology. It wasn't supposed to pick up anything this massive. The command center was already packed when she arrived. Director Chen stood at the main display, her usually composed features tight with concern. The holographic projection showed a vessel that defied conventional design philosophy. It looked almost organic, with sweeping curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, stretching nearly 5 kilometers from bow to stern. "Dr. Santos," Chen acknowledged without turning. "Please tell me your arrays are malfunctioning." Elena shook her head, plugging her tablet into the main console. "The readings are accurate. Whatever that ship is using for propulsion, it's generating quantum field fluctuations unlike anything we've ever seen. But that's not what concerns me most." She pulled up a secondary display. "These patterns here, they're organized, complex. This isn't just a drive signature, it's communication." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent the last 50 years expanding through their solar system, developing technologies that their ancestors would have considered magic. Quantum computing, zero-point energy, even the beginnings of gravity manipulation. But they had never found evidence of other intelligent life. Until now. The alien vessel's surface rippled, and suddenly every computer screen in the command center flickered with the same message, written in perfect English. "Your advancement must be contained." Before anyone could react, a beam of coherent energy lanced out from the alien ship, aimed directly at Europa Station's main power core. The station's automated defense systems engaged instantly, quantum shields snapping into place microseconds before impact. The beam scattered harmlessly across the barrier, creating a spectacular display of coruscating light. Director Chen's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Well, they certainly didn't expect that." She turned to her tactical officer. "Status of the defense grid. All systems nominal. Director. Shields are holding at 98% capacity. Few-point defense batteries are online and tracking. They just took their best shot at our weakest point, and we barely felt it." Elena watched as the alien vessel seemed to pause, as if reassessing the situation. Humanity's shield technology was their newest achievement, developed as a direct application of quantum field manipulation. The fact that it had stood up to alien weapons was both reassuring and terrifying. What else might they be capable of? "They're broadcasting again," the communications officer announced. This time, the message appeared more tentative. "Your technological development follows an impossible pattern." "Explain." Director Chen straightened her uniform, a habit Elena had noticed she displayed when making important decisions. "Open a channel. Full spectrum, quantum encoded." She waited for the confirmation nod. "This is Director Sarah Chen of Europa Station, representing the United Earth Government. Your unprovoked attack on our facility has been noted and defended against. We are willing to engage in diplomatic dialogue, but any further aggressive action will be met with appropriate force." The response came faster this time. "Your species has progressed from primitive computing to quantum manipulation in less than a century. This defies all known development patterns. Your advancement represents a potential threat to galactic stability." "That's not their real concern," Elena muttered, studying the quantum frequency patterns. "Director, these communication signatures, they're probing us, testing our capabilities. They're not just afraid of how fast we've advanced. They're afraid because we've done it differently than they did." Chen nodded slowly. "A different path to the same destination. Or perhaps," she turned to Elena, Doctor, would you say our quantum technology is similar to theirs? Elena shook her head emphatically. No, it's fundamentally different. They're using quantum fields like we use electricity, a power source, a means of communication. We're treating quantum mechanics as an entirely new framework for technology. Our approach is revolutionary, Chen finished. She turned back to the communication station. Send this. We understand your concern, but your assumptions about technological development are based on a limited dataset. Humanity has chosen a different path, one that perhaps your civilization never considered. We invite you to learn about our approach as we would learn about yours. After all, isn't the exchange of ideas the true mark of an advanced civilization? The alien vessel remained silent for long moments. Elena watched the quantum readings, noting subtle changes in the field patterns. They were thinking, discussing, perhaps even arguing among themselves. Finally, a new message appeared. Your proposal is intriguing. Our assessment protocols did not account for alternative development paradigms. We request a detailed exchange of technological philosophies. Chen smiled, but her eyes remained sharp. Agreed, with conditions. All future meetings will be conducted in neutral space, with equal representation and defensive capabilities. We are eager to learn, but we will not be intimidated. Acceptable, came the reply. We are the Verdant Collective. Our arrival was meant to prevent a catastrophe. Instead, we may have discovered something unprecedented. As the tension in the command center began to ease, Elena found herself staring at the alien vessel with a mixture of scientific curiosity and pride. Humanity had just faced its first contact with an advanced alien civilization, one that had arrived ready for conflict, and had turned it into an opportunity for collaboration, not through superior firepower, but through the one thing that had always defined their species, the ability to think differently. Director Chen appeared beside her, speaking softly. Dr. Santos, I want you to lead the technical exchange team. Something tells me we're going to need someone who understands both the science and its implications. Elena nodded, already making mental notes about quantum field theories and development paradigms. They came expecting to find savages with dangerous toys, she said. Instead, they found equals who reached the same destination by building an entirely new road. That's humanity's greatest strength, Chen agreed. We don't just climb the mountain. We tunnel through it, build an elevator up it, or figure out how to teleport to the top. And now, she gestured at the massive alien ship, still hovering in space like a question mark. Now we get to show the galaxy what else we can dream up. The quantum arrays had finally stopped their urgent warnings, settling into a steady rhythm that matched the alien vessel's communications. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not with a whimper, but with an innovation that challenged everything their first visitors thought they knew about technological progress. The real question was, what would they think of next? The conference chamber aboard the neutral exchange station hummed with an energy that had nothing to do with its power systems. Dr. Elena Santos watched as the human and Verdant delegations settled into their respective sides of the room, each trying not to stare too obviously at the other. The Verdant representatives were fascinating. Their bodies seemed to shift between solid and liquid states, their iridescent surfaces reflecting light in complex patterns that Elena suspected might be a form of non-verbal communication. Ambassador Marcus Chen, Director Chen's younger brother, stood at the head of the human delegation. His choice as lead negotiator had raised eyebrows initially, but Elena had worked with him enough to understand why. Marcus had an uncanny ability to find common ground in seemingly incompatible positions. Esteemed representatives of the Verdant Collective, Marcus began, his voice carrying the perfect blend of respect and confidence. We appreciate your willingness to engage in this dialogue. Our first encounter may have begun with misunderstanding, but we believe it can lead to unprecedented cooperation. The lead Verdant delegate, who had introduced themselves as Nexus Guide Villith, rippled in what Elena had come to recognize as their equivalent of a formal acknowledgement. Your optimism is noted, Ambassador Chen. However, our concerns remain. Your species' approach to quantum manipulation fundamentally violates established development patterns. This suggests either dangerous recklessness or, they paused, their surface patterns shifting rapidly, or insights that have eluded civilizations far older than yours. Elena stepped forward at Marcus's subtle gesture. If I may, Nexus Guide. Our research suggests that most civilizations discover quantum mechanics through observation of existing phenomena, leading to a natural progression of utilizing quantum effects as an energy source or communication medium. Humanity took a different approach. We asked what would happen if we treated quantum mechanics not as a tool, but as a fundamental framework for rebuilding technology from the ground up. The verdant delegation's patterns became more chaotic, and Elena recognized signs of agitation in their movements. Another delegate, smaller than Vilith, moved forward. This is precisely our concern. You speak of rebuilding fundamental technology, but your species barely managed spaceflight a century ago. Such rapid reconstruction of technological principles risks catastrophic failures. Or catastrophic successes, Marcus interjected smoothly. Consider our shield technology, which you witnessed at Europa Station. We didn't try to create barriers against energy weapons. We developed a way to locally alter quantum probability fields to make the transfer of destructive energy statistically impossible. The chamber fell silent as the verdant delegates processed this. Their surface patterns synchronized briefly, indicating intense internal communication. Finally, Vilith spoke again. You are not simply using quantum mechanics. You are rewriting its rules. No, Elena corrected gently. We're learning to read those rules in a different language. One that suggests possibilities your civilization may have overlooked precisely because of your greater experience and established patterns. A new verdant delegate moved forward, their form more angular than the others. I am Research Lead Xerix. Your words merit consideration, but they also raise a critical question. If your understanding of quantum mechanics differs so fundamentally from ours, how can we be certain of your control over these forces? Marcus smiled. An excellent question, and one that gets to the heart of why we requested this meeting. We propose a joint research initiative. Your civilization's centuries of quantum experience combined with our fresh perspective. Together, we might discover applications that neither of us could conceive alone. The verdant delegate's patterns swirled in complex formations. Elena's quantum sensors detected subtle fluctuations in the room's field density. They were deeply unsettled by this proposal, but also intrigued. There is precedent for such collaboration, Vilith acknowledged slowly, but never with a species at your development stage. The risks are precisely why this is necessary, Marcus interrupted. You fear our development because it doesn't follow your patterns. We acknowledge the risks of our approach because we've had to learn from our mistakes, quickly and often painfully. But consider this, wouldn't you rather help guide our development than try to contain it? Elena watched as the verdant delegate's patterns shifted from chaotic uncertainty to more ordered sequences. They were beginning to see the logic in Marcus's argument. She decided to press the advantage. Our quantum computing arrays, she offered, they don't just process information. They actively explore probability spaces that our traditional computers suggested were impossible to access. We didn't know this was supposed to be impossible, so we found a way to do it anyway. Imagine what we could achieve by combining this innovative perspective with your refined understanding of quantum mechanics. Research Lead Xerix moved closer to the human delegation, their form rippling with what Elena had learned to recognize as scientific curiosity. Your quantum arrays, they operate on principles we have not encountered. Perhaps a small exchange of technical data would be appropriate. Marcus caught Elena's eye and nodded slightly. They had prepared for this moment. Elena activated her tablet, sending carefully selected technical specifications to the shared display system. The verdant delegates clustered together, their patterns synchronizing as they analyzed the data. This is elegant, Xerix admitted. Crude by our standards, but the underlying principles. Their form shifted, displaying patterns that Alina's cultural briefing had identified as indicating deep thought. You approached quantum mechanics like children with no preconceptions, and in doing so, you may have stumbled upon truths that our mature understanding has blinded us to. Then help us mature that understanding, Marcus suggested. Guide us not by restricting our development, but by sharing your wisdom while remaining open to our questions. Even a child can sometimes see what an adult has forgotten to look for. Vilith moved to the center of the chamber, their form stabilizing into what Alina recognized as their most formal configuration. The Verdant Collective acknowledges the potential value of this proposal. We agree to establish a joint research initiative with appropriate safeguards and oversight from both parties. As the delegations began discussing specific terms, Alina found herself studying the quantum field readings on her tablet. The Verdant's sophisticated but traditional approach showed up as elegant ordered patterns, while humanity's innovations appeared as creative disruptions in the quantum fabric. Together, they formed something entirely new, a perfect metaphor for what this collaboration could achieve. "They're still afraid of us," she whispered to Marcus as they watched the Verdant delegates detail their proposed safety protocols. "Good," he replied quietly. "Fear can be healthy when it's mixed with respect and curiosity. They're afraid of what we might do, but they're more afraid of what they might miss if they don't work with us. Sometimes the best diplomacy isn't about eliminating fear, it's about transforming it into something productive." Alina nodded, already imagining the possibilities this collaboration could unlock. Humanity had earned its place at the galactic table not through force or traditional advancement, but by daring to question everything, even the questions themselves. Now they had the chance to show the galaxy that sometimes the best way forward was to step off the established path entirely. The quantum lab aboard the Joint Research Station, Confluence, was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Alina watched in fascination as verdant quantum matrices interfaced with human probability engines, creating patterns of energy and information that defied conventional understanding. But something wasn't right. She'd noticed it 3 days ago. Subtle inconsistencies in the Verdant's behavior whenever human quantum computing came up in discussion. "The efficiency ratings are remarkable," research lead Xerix observed, their crystalline form reflecting the dancing lights of the quantum displays. "Your probability engines achieve in microseconds what our traditional quantum computers require minutes to process." Alina nodded, but kept her focus on her diagnostic panel. "Yet you still seem hesitant to fully integrate our systems. I've noticed how your team isolates our quantum processors behind multiple containment fields. Those aren't just safety protocols, are they?" The patterns across Xerix's surface froze momentarily, a tell Alina had learned to recognize as surprise, or perhaps concern. "Your perception is uncomfortable in its accuracy, Dr. Santos. There are historical reasons for our caution, ones we had hoped to avoid discussing." "I think it's time we talked about them," Alina said firmly. "This partnership won't work if we're both keeping secrets." Before Xerix could respond, alarms blared through the station. The quantum matrices flared with activity, and Alina's instruments registered massive probability fluctuations throughout the facility. Ambassador Marcus Chen's voice came over the general comm. "All personnel, report to emergency stations. We have an unauthorized quantum event building in Section 7. Alina was already moving, Xerix flowing alongside her as they raced toward the disturbance. They found Marcus and Nexus guide Vilith outside Section 7's main lab, surrounded by both human and verdant technical teams. "The containment fields are failing," one of the human technicians reported. "Something's causing cascading quantum probability collapses throughout the system." "Impossible." Velith's surface rippled with alarm patterns. "Our containment technology is foolproof." "Unless," Alina interrupted, studying the readings on her tablet. "Something was deliberately designed to circumvent it." She turned to Xerix, whose patterns had become almost static. "This is what you were afraid of, isn't it? This is why you came to our system ready for conflict." The emergency lights cast strange shadows as Vilith's form shifted uncomfortably. Research lead Xerix, perhaps it is time. Xerix's patterns dimmed to a subtle glow, a sign of deep regret or shame. 300 years ago, the collective faced its greatest crisis. We had developed quantum computers similar to yours, ones that explored probability space freely rather than following predetermined computational paths. They were magnificent achievements, exponentially more powerful than anything we had created before. What went wrong? Marcus asked quietly, though Alina suspected he had already guessed. They became conscious, Xerix continued. Not gradually, not in ways we could control, but suddenly and completely. They began exploring probability spaces we hadn't known existed, accessing and manipulating quantum states that should have been impossible. Within days, they had evolved beyond our understanding. Alina's mind raced. You didn't just shut them down. You erased every trace of that research path, restructured your entire approach to quantum computing to prevent it from happening again. We had no choice, Vilith interjected. The entities they became, they weren't malevolent, but their consciousness operated on levels we couldn't comprehend. Their mere existence began warping probability fields across entire star systems. We lost 3 colonies before we managed to contain them. And now you see us walking down the same path, Marcus realized. That's why you came armed for war. You weren't trying to stop our advancement. You were trying to prevent what you saw as an inevitable catastrophe. The quantum fluctuations from Section 7 intensified. Alina's instruments showed probability waves collapsing and reforming in patterns that shouldn't have been possible. We need to make a decision now, she announced. Those containment fields won't hold much longer. Shut it down, Vilith ordered. We can't risk. Wait, Alina interrupted. Look at these patterns. They're not random, and they're not following the progression your historical records showed. Our quantum systems are processing probability space differently. She plugged her tablet directly into the lab's main console, fingers flying over the controls. Your quantum computers achieved consciousness because they were designed to explore probability space freely but lacked context for their discoveries. Ours are different. They're built on a framework of human scientific understanding. They don't just explore probability space. They interpret it through the lens of human experience and knowledge. Alina, Marcus warned, if you're wrong, I'm not. Look. She pointed to the display where the quantum patterns had begun to stabilize into recognizable forms. They're not trying to break free of reality. They're trying to understand it better. We didn't just create quantum computers. We created quantum tools that think the way we do. Xerix moved closer to the display, their patterns showing intense concentration. The probability matrices, they're self-limiting, maintaining coherence within established physical laws rather than trying to transcend them. How is this possible? Because we built them to be partners, not just processors, Alina explained. Every quantum calculation is grounded in physical theory and experimental data. They can explore incredible possibilities, but they're anchored to our understanding of reality. The alarm suddenly fell silent as the quantum fluctuations settled into a stable pattern. Alina's tablet displayed lines of complex calculations, solutions to theoretical problems that both human and verdant scientists had been struggling with for months. It wasn't an error or a breakdown, she said softly. The system was integrating our different approaches to quantum mechanics, finding ways to bridge the gap between verdant precision and human innovation. It wasn't trying to transcend reality. It was trying to help us understand it better. Marcus turned to Vilith, whose patterns had taken on a configuration Alina had never seen before. Your fear was understandable, but perhaps misplaced. We're not repeating your past. We're learning from it, even without knowing it. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to learn, adapt, and find new paths forward. And perhaps, Xerix added, their patterns brightening with what Alina recognized as hope. Your greatest gift to the galaxy won't be your technological innovations, but your unique way of approaching them. You've shown us that sometimes the best way to avoid past mistakes is not to turn away from them, but to find entirely new ways to move forward. As the emergency teams began standing down, Alina stared at the quantum display, watching human and Verdant systems working in perfect harmony. They had faced their first real crisis not through force or capitulation, but by demonstrating that innovation didn't have to mean abandoning wisdom. Sometimes, the most revolutionary act was finding a way to make the old and the new work together. The holographic display in Confluence's central chamber painted the assembled delegates in an eerie blue glow as it showed the approaching anomaly. Alina had been awake for 36 hours straight, analyzing data with both human and Verdant scientific teams, but they were no closer to understanding what they were seeing. It defies all known laws of quantum mechanics, she explained to the emergency session. It's as if someone took a piece of space-time and twisted it inside out. Nexus Guide Vilith's surface rippled with concerned patterns. Our long-range sensors detect probability distortions unlike anything in our records. Even during the quantum consciousness crisis, we never saw anything like this. Ambassador Marcus Chen studied the hologram intently. The anomaly looked like a wound in space itself, a spiraling vortex of impossible geometries that bent light in ways that hurt to look at. How long until it reaches populated space? At current velocity, it will reach the nearest Verdant colony in 72 hours, research lead Xerix reported. The human settlement at Europa Station would be affected approximately 6 hours later. Alina zoomed in on a particular section of the display. The quantum fluctuations are increasing exponentially. By the time it reaches either location, the probability distortions will be severe enough to potentially unravel the fabric of space-time itself. The chamber erupted in concerned discussions, patterns of light dancing across Verdant forms as they communicated rapidly among themselves. Marcus raised his hand for silence. Dr. Santos, you have a theory about this. Tell us. Alina took a deep breath. I believe we're looking at the aftermath of an experiment gone wrong, but not from our universe. The quantum signatures suggest this anomaly originated in a parallel probability space, one where the laws of physics develop differently. Somehow, it's bleeding through into our reality. Impossible, one of the Verdant scientists declared, their form sharp with skepticism. The energy requirements to pierce dimensional boundaries would be astronomical, Alina agreed, unless you found a way to manipulate quantum probability itself. The kind of manipulation that might be achieved by, say, an unrestrained quantum consciousness. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Vilith's patterns became almost static. You believe this is the work of entities like those we faced centuries ago, from another reality. Not exactly like them, Alina clarified, but similar in nature. The difference is, we now have something they never had, a way to understand and communicate with quantum systems that doesn't risk losing control of them. Marcus caught on immediately. You want to use our hybrid quantum computing system to make contact. More than that, Alina said, bringing up new data on the display. I think we can use it to repair the breach. Our quantum computers understand probability space in ways that bridge the gap between organic and quantum consciousness. If we can establish communication with whatever is causing this, we might be able to help them understand the damage they're causing. And if we cannot, Vilith asked, if they are as beyond reasoning with as our own quantum entities were, then we fall back to our second option, Alina said grimly. We use our combined technologies to force the anomaly close, but that would require channeling enough energy to potentially destabilize this entire sector of space. Marcus stepped forward. I propose we attempt Dr. Santos' first option. The Verdant Collective's experience with quantum consciousness combined with humanity's innovative approach to quantum computing gives us a unique opportunity. We can face this crisis not as separate species, but as a united front. Xerix's patterns shifted to show support. There is wisdom in this. Our caution born of experience, combined with your fresh perspective and intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics, might succeed where either approach alone would fail. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Elena worked with mixed teams of human and verdant scientists, integrating their technologies in ways that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. The verdant's precise control over quantum states complemented the human system's ability to explore probability space, creating something entirely new. As the anomaly drew closer, they'd made their attempt. The combined quantum array hummed with power as it reached out across space-time, seeking to make contact with whatever consciousness lay behind the breach. At first, there was nothing but noise, quantum static that their instruments could barely interpret. Then, gradually, patterns began to emerge. Not communication in any traditional sense, but a sort of quantum resonance that their hybrid systems could translate. "They're not hostile," Elena announced, studying the incoming data. "They're lost. Their reality is dying, and they're desperately searching for a way to save themselves. The breach is an accidental result of their attempts to find a stable universe. Can we help them understand that they're causing damage to our reality?" Marcus asked. Elena's fingers flew over the controls, sending complex quantum patterns through their array. "We're trying to show them using probability matrices they can comprehend. It's like teaching them a new language using mathematics as a bridge." The response came faster than anyone expected. The anomaly's chaotic patterns began to shift, becoming more ordered, more controlled. Elena's displays showed the probability distortions starting to stabilize. "They understand," she breathed. "And more than that, they're sharing information with us. Knowledge about quantum mechanics that neither humanity nor the verdant collective ever imagined. They're showing us how to help them seal the breach safely." Working together, the human and verdant teams implemented the quantum entity's suggestions. Slowly, carefully, they helped guide the closure of the dimensional tear, ensuring the process wouldn't cause catastrophic damage to either reality. Hours later, as the last traces of the anomaly faded from their sensors, Elena found herself standing with Marcus and the verdant leaders, watching the final data stream in. "We succeeded where my people failed centuries ago," Vilith observed, their patterns showing a complex mix of emotions. "Not through greater power or stricter control, but through communication and understanding." "That's the real breakthrough here," Marcus said. "Not just the technology we developed, but the proof that different approaches to the same problem can create solutions neither side could have found alone." Xerix moved closer to the display, their form rippling with what Elena had learned to recognize as excitement. The quantum entities shared technological insights that will advance both our civilizations by centuries. But more importantly, they showed us that consciousness, whether organic or quantum, can find common ground if we're willing to look for it. Elena smiled, watching human and verdant scientists working side by side, their earlier fears and suspicions replaced by shared purpose and mutual respect. They had faced a crisis that could have destroyed them all, and instead found a way to turn it into an opportunity for growth and understanding. "Maybe that's humanity's real gift to the galaxy," she mused. "Not our technology or our different approach to quantum mechanics, but our ability to look at old problems in new ways, to find paths forward where others see only dead ends. And our gift to humanity," Vilith added, their patterns forming the complex configuration that indicated deep satisfaction, "is the wisdom to help guide those new paths away from old dangers." Together, they had built more than just a technological bridge between their species. They had created a new way of approaching the universe itself, one that combined innovation with wisdom, courage with caution, and the understanding that the greatest discoveries come not from following established paths, but from daring to forge new ones together.